CES is still rolling, and next up is Intel. Intel's press conference didn't have a lot to show in terms of like the mainstream desktop gamer streamer end of things. There was a lot of kind of the setup groundwork laying for future products, as well as talking a little about the server end of things and some SoC stuff. But let's dive in with the first thing, which is Icelake. Now, Icelake is what they're calling their next set of chips. They're coding for the next set of processors coming up, the 10th generation, which are 10 nanometer process. Now, this is great to hear because we've already been hearing about the 10 nanometer process with Icelake and stuff, and that didn't really happen. But this time they've actually shown a product and are really dedicated to it. So I'm confident that it's actually going to pull through this time. So these new 10th generation processors will run on Sunny Cove microarchitecture. With last architecture was called Skylake, also the code name of the chips was Skylake, which was called Skylake, which held all the different processors all the way up to Coffee Lake and Can Lake and all the refreshes and such. And now we're on a new one called Icelake with microarchitecture called Sunny Cove. And it's great to see something new finally, especially, like I said, on the 10 nanometer process. Now, these first ones are for the mobile market, like the ultra low power market, which are the designation of the U model number. These specific ones will have 4 cores, 8 threads, Generation 11 graphics, 15 watt TDP, and Wi-Fi 6 802.11ax, and Thunderbolt 3 over Type-C. So there's a lot of great specs coming off of these already, especially for these ones being in the mobile market, and they even actually showed the kind of bare silicon board package of one of the processors and then demoed a little bit. One of the first demos was that they compared one of these, which they didn't name which model or anything, against an i7 processor. And the first thing it did was kind of like an indexing search of pictures and stuff. And these new ones actually came out really quick. It was showing results well before the other one even started to try and show any results, which was really cool to watch that demonstration. Another one they showed off was a laptop. These are both all laptops, but they're playing a game which was connected to a separate mouse and keyboard and separate monitor, and it's playing it off of the Gen 11 graphics that was built into these chips, which is pretty amazing because they've never been known for having amazing integrated graphics in the first place. So it's cool to see it actually powering a pretty decent, like pretty well-performing game, and looked pretty nice too as well from what we could see. So that's really cool, and it shows a lot for what they're upcoming with their intent to have actual discrete graphics adapter, what they've never had before. So it's nice to see a kind of setting place to go up to from their integrated graphics and how they're dedicated to getting those to be more powerful, more robust, to leading up to the graphics that they're going to be ending up with. Now, like I said, this is leading up. This is the ground laying work for the future processor, which is like the ultra low power, the mobile, the desktop, and the server end of things with this Icelake processing. And unfortunately, they didn't show anything about the desktop end or even the server end. They kind of mentioned the server end will eventually get it, and they talked a little bit more on the Xeon scale of things, but they really didn't talk anything beyond really showing off the low power, which is, I think they wanted to get their starting point, get that going, and then work on, which is normal. They always do the ultra low power, the desktop, and then the mobile and Xeon kind of follow right after that. Now, they didn't set an actual date for when these are going to come out, but they did say holiday 2019. So that's about when we're going to see these ultra low power versions of Icelake released. And usually the desktop follows right after that. It always goes the ultra low powerful, the desktop, mobile, server, which means we're probably going to see those desktop ones sometime like this time next year, maybe spring. It's a little bit of ways to wait, but at least we're on track to get ourselves into the 10 nanometer Sunny Cove based Icelake processors, which is great. I'm excited to see how well these things perform and to finally get a new architecture of processor going. The next thing I talked about was Lakefield. Now, Lakefield is a 10 nanometer process that's what they're built on, but it's actually a hybrid scaling processing package design with the idea that you can combine multiple cores of different sizes even and types. So the one they kind of showed off in an animation, which they were proud to show off, was one that had a Sunny Cove 10 nanometer single core alongside 4 10 nanometer Atom cores. So that's interesting. They can mix 2 different types of processor cores within a single package to get a very, very low power but still high efficiency and high good performing product in a smaller package, and like I said, use less power, less heat dissipation requirement. Great idea that they're showing off. And along with it, they showed off something called Fervoros, which is where you can stack multiple layers of these silicon layers into a single package. So instead of just having one wafer core or 2 cores, packages sitting in one layer, they can have multiple layers of all these different things. Like they showed the same animation showed alongside the cores that you'd also have a layer for the I/O memory and another one for DRAM and then another one for maybe for graphics, all just stacked in. So you can actually get more within a smaller space and just slightly thicker package. Now during part of this presentation, they also did mention that we are getting more 9th generation processors, which is odd because we already got 9th generation processors. But let's dive into this anyway. So the first one is that we're going to get the 9th generation mobile processors for laptops. So we haven't gotten those yet, which is great because what we're sitting on currently is the 8th generation. Mine is actually a 7th generation here, but we have the 8th generation already with like i7-8750H and stuff like that. So now we're going to finally get the 9th generation variants, which is great. That's finally getting to those into the market. Now they didn't have any specifics on those, but they did mention Q2 of 2019, so we should be seeing those within the next 3 or 4 months coming up. They also did mention 9th generation desktop processors, anything from i3 up to i9, which is very interesting considering we already have a lineup of at least the i5 to i9 for the 9th generation. Now, some people did leak some stuff ahead of like a couple days ago, and some people dug a little bit further after this presentation to find out what that might mean, and they've come down to the conclusion that it's the F variant. And what the F variant means is that they disable the integrated graphics. So basically, you're going to have like a 9900K F, which is the 9900K, but without the integrated graphics functioning. 9700KF, same idea. So with these 9th generation processors, they're introducing 3 new processors in the lineup, one of which is an i3 processor. So we're finally getting an i3 9th generation processor in the form of a 9350KF. So we're not only going to get a unlocked overclockable processor, but one without the integrated graphics. This is a quad-core, no hyper-threading processor with a base speed of 4 gigahertz and a turbo of 4.6. So that's going to be an interesting little processor, especially with these Fs with the graphics removed from them. That means that there's less power requirement, lower, better stabilization when you're overclocking. So we might get better speeds, higher speeds, and higher stable speeds at that when trying to overclock. The other 2 are i5 variants, the 9400 and 9400F. Notice there was no K in there because neither one of these is the unlocked overclockable versions. The F version, of course, has no integrated graphics, whereas the regular one does have the integrated graphics. Both of these are 6-core, no hyper-threading processors with a base speed of 2.9 gigahertz and a turbo of 4.1 gigahertz. So they're not high in speed, but they do have the extra 2 cores over the i3. Now, there's no mention of date for any of these, but there was a press note that's kind of said expected end of January. I don't think they're going to end up end of January. I'm guessing probably more something along the lines of February or March. They'll probably just be sneaked into the market or slipped in various OEM parts that have discrete graphics, or just into the market in general for people to buy. But that was it for Intel's press conference. Not a whole lot showing off. The big parts were probably, to me, were the Icelake, showing off that because, like I said, that's laying the groundwork for the 10th generation processors that we're going to come up on for desktop and the server market, as well as mobile, and eventually and the 10 nanometer process with Generation 11 graphics and a new micro-core architecture, which is great. But thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any comments or questions, leave them below in the description. That's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching and have a good one.